I'm really not doing well. My computer just froze at 21 minutes and some seconds. So I have to do another I have to do another segment. This is number 3. My computer's so full, like the memory problem is what's causing the computer to crash. And I do have an editing program, but because it's so full, it's so hard for me to get anything done. So now I'm going to have to load these up in 3 segments until I have the patience to figure out how to empty some stuff off of here so I can use that program so I can squeeze it all together and make it one. Anyways, after Clark settled Wilfred into place, he drove the truck to their designated spot in the parking lot and put his fair contestant pass around his neck and started his long trek from the beginning at the gates around the grounds. It wasn't long before he found her, perched perfectly on the swing, with her long bare legs showing, the beautiful shade of her porcelain skin and her long flowing hair just on this side of light golden brown. He hadn't seen her since first aid class, but just as she said, she kept her word and took her place as she said she would. She saw Clark as he was drawing closer, waved and smiled at him. He waved back. Moments later, he found himself in the lineup, and that is where his mother found him. Clark's mother looking at the girl and looking at her son, rolling her eyeballs. Clark, do you really think that's fair? I mean, you can't miss, after all. Clark, oh, hey, Mom. Who's watching the table and where are you going? Clark's mother, Margaret is there. I forgot some things in the truck, so she said she'd watch the table till I got back. You be sure to go easy on her. You have good taste, son. This one is very pretty. And her skin? Even I noticed. That's hers. Hasn't been ruined by tanning too much in the sun. Who is she? Clark. Oh, that's the first aid teacher I told you about. She's the one that gave your son his first Red Cross certificate and made him into a bona fide lifesaver. He chuckled. I told her I would pitch in to try and help reduce how many of these other guys win the chance to come back here later tonight to kiss her with their winning tickets at the kissing booth. Clark's mother. Nice save, Clark, but I'm your mother. I know you better than that. She poked him in the ribs. Just don't win too many times and make it unfair for the others. I'll see you back at our table when you're done. Clark. Yes, mother. And off she went to the truck with the spare key she had brought. A minute later, his mother turned around and asked him, By the way, what's her name? Your first aid teacher. Clark. Janet. Clark's mother. Very popular name, and I'd say a pretty good one for a first aid teacher's. For a first aid teacher, it's a strong name. Then she turned away, and off she went. Janet could see Clark talking to someone, but he was too far back in the line with all the noise going on to be able to make out what he was saying to that lady. Once at the front of the line, though, she was quick to make small talk with Clark. So, who was that lady you were talking with a few minutes ago? She doesn't look like your type, and she's a trait old. She laughed. Clark broke out laughing. Yep, that's about right. That was my mother. And yes, we were talking about you, he said, when he took his first ball, wound his arm, and swung, and of course, didn't miss. She had just enough time to close her pretty smiling mouth. Into the water she sank when the swing gave way. What a nice way to spend a hot fall day, getting wet to keep cool, and then getting dry and being kissed. Janet now perched back up on her swing. Thought you said you didn't play baseball. Clark. I don't. This is just beginner's luck, I guess. Janet. How many times do you plan to play? There are a lot of other people behind you that would like a turn, too, you know. Clark. They can wait. I paid for $20 worth, and I'm going to play for $20 worth. I definitely want to come back this evening and see you when you're all dried off tonight. At that, he went back to concentrating. After 20 minutes of measuring wisely and taking his time throwing his balls, he found he was quite happy to have won a handful of times. He was hoping rather that he was the one with the most wins, as he promised her to save her from as many of the other guys as he could. Underneath it all, though, there was nothing between him and them personally, but there was just a part of him that didn't like the idea of her being kissed 24 times by 24 different guys. So his challenge was to kiss them all off. With enough wins, he thought he might just be able to do that. When he was done winning his handful of tickets, he waved his hand with the tickets in the air for her and everyone else to see. Clark, as promised, my lady, I shall return tonight to rescue the fair maiden in distress. She splashed some water in his direction with her foot, waved him off. She was having a great time swimming. Where she's from, she wasn't used to this kind of heat. Clark then walked back to his mother's baking and knitting and sunflower table. Evidently, Clark's idea was proving to be a success. People were supporting his mother and purchasing seeds and plants that would grow in the family's farm field. His mother had done the math on how much she would need and thought presenting it at the fair she might come up with the rest of the overhead she needed to do this. Turns out she was right. Sometime later in the day, Lex Luthor showed up and saw Clark and his mother walked over to their table. He asked, "What is this all about?" So Clark's mother told him. And then Lex Luthor said, I would support you any way I can. All you have to do is ask. You do not need to be out here doing this. Clark's mother, I appreciate the offer, Lex, but I would just feel better if I can make it on my own. Besides, this is fun. Clark and I are having a great time making up for the time he hasn't been around. Lex Luthor, yes, that's right. His job at the paper in the city. He is a city man now. Isn't that right, Clark? Clark, gotta be a man and move on with life sometime, right, Lex? So how is the burnt field doing? Did you find your culprit yet? Lex Luthor, DNA test shows whoever it is not from around here. So I'm going to have to spend a bit more money on seeing if her DNA can be matched anywhere. But otherwise, all I know is that she wears rose lipstick and drinks whiskey and smokes cigarettes while she's driving. Clark, sounds like trouble. I hope I don't run into her while I'm driving, but if I do, I will certainly let you know. Anyone who smokes and drinks while driving must have a third arm, so I think it's fair and safe to say that we would want her to be taken off the road as soon as possible. Lex Luthor, agreed. I was trying to figure that out myself. I got it in my head that she must have been driving with her knee or something on the wheel. I mean, how else can you do it? It's a wonder she didn't ditch her car at the time she threw the cigarette. Lord only knows how drunk she was, too. Clark, scary thought, with all the kids that are growing up around here these days. Lex Luthor, yes, I agree. Anyway, as for the field, I did a bit of research, and coincidentally, I've come up with a similar idea as your mother to use the field to do something productive that honors where we live, and it is fun, too. I'm going to grow corn and then make a corn maze out of it. Apparently, once upon a time, McDonald's made the biggest corn maze in the world. Now my field may not be as big as Benson Farms, but I can still do something fun, like the new Luthor Corps symbol, and watch how long it takes people to wander their way through and out the other side. But like your mom, sunflowers, it won't be ready until next year. Clark, well, then I guess I will have to come back to see the results of what both of you do. I couldn't miss the fun of your maze or the beauty of my mother's sunflowers. Which, by the way, the sunflowers will be called Jonathan Spitz, of which, once produced and bagged, you are welcome to buy as much as you feel you can eat over the course of a decade or two. Lex Luthor laughed. I will certainly do so. They shook hands, and Lex left with the small group of people he was walking through the fair with. Around 6:30 that night, Clark turned to his mother and said, Do you think you have a handle on things here? There is something I need to go and do. And he showed his mother his string of kissing booth tickets with a large smile and a glow about him she'd never seen him have before, with a shine in his eyes like he was looking forward to being a little mischievous. Something told his mother, he might just actually like this one. What do you know, she thought to herself, smiling. Clark's mother. Go on, Clark, get out of here. I hope she doesn't slap you too hard for trying to kiss a woman 12 times you barely know. You've done a great job helping your mother today. You are free to go play. Clark said thanks and kissed his mother on the cheek and said goodbye. Moments later, there he was, standing around 6 or 7 guys, all eager and anxious to kiss a pretty lady they want a ticket for the opportunity to get to know. One of the newest strangers in town. There was just something different about this one from the ordinary same old that all the other guys in the lineup clearly agreed on. The others saw Clark's string of tickets, and they moaned and groaned with jealousy. One of the guys in the lineup. There has always got to be one of those hot shots around. You know, the kind that never misses, and usually that's the guy that also steals the girl. That's not fair for how hard we average guys work to just get a win for one kiss from the nicest first aid instructor I've ever met in these parts. Another said, you mean the only first aid instructor lady to ever work around here. Clark, trying to fit in, says, I've never played on a baseball team in my entire life, I swear. And I've never tried my hand at the kissing booth until today. So please let me enjoy this moment in my life like the rest of you. All the guys then shut up as the line moved closer. When Clark was next, Janet pointed behind him. Look, the guys are leaving. They can see your string of tickets and have given up waiting for their turn. Your plan, it worked. But I have one question, Clark said. And what is that? Janet says, are you going to kiss me 12 times? Or are you going to take one really big kiss from me? He smiled, gave her all the tickets, moved one step closer so he could reach her face, took his left hand and touched her chin with his index finger and his thumb, softly raised her chin to his, leaned forward and without a word, while smiling, went in for the kill, the longest kiss of his life. One long one, he thought, should do it. The line behind him, when he is done, should be completely gone, and she should be left standing there breathless, without a word to be said. End scene. Next one. Last minute decorating for the reunion. It was a few days later, once again in the gym, he was there to help finish decorating for the reunion, but he wasn't sure why Janet was there. Maybe for the same reason, but he really didn't care. All he could see was her standing there, with her shoes off under the ball in the middle of the gym. Without wasting another moment, not knowing he'd see her again so soon, he walked toward her. When she saw him, she froze in place. First words out of her mouth were like a confession. She didn't mean to speak with her heart, but it's what came out. And Janet said, I've never actually had one. A formal dance with anyone. Clark, once standing in front of her, says, you mean no one's ever asked you to dance? So basically then you're still a wallflower. Well now, look at it from where I'm standing. That's not actually a bad thing. As he said these words, with a smile across his face, he moved in slowly closer towards her. Janet, feeling nervous, found herself stepping backwards, bumping into the table behind her. Clark looks at her in such a way, Janet wonders if she is blushing. As he smiles in genuineness, he proceeds to say, will you do the honor of dancing with me? Janet says, me in my socks? You in your sneakers, right here under the old ball in the school gym? She asked Clark shyly back. Clark, yes. Is there something wrong with that? As he takes those last few steps closer to Janet and moves out his hands to hold hers. And just like that, Janet was frozen in time, on the spot. Her right foot started turning inward, and the toes on her foot curled without knowing what to do. All she could do was stand there and look back at him, as she slowly raised her hands to let him take her in his. Clark, because I would love to have this dance with you, he said, as he positioned himself with her hands. Janet, I don't know how to do this, she said nervously. Clark, Let me worry about that, as he positioned her hands before placing his. Clark, now all you have to do is follow my lead. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Before long, Janet found herself laying her head on his shoulder, where she could hear the sound of his heartbeat in place of the music that was at the moment not available in the gym. And you know something? It felt great. It is in this instant she discovered the absolute greatest moment of her life. A prom dance you've never had. One, she thinks to herself. Janet whispers, "Thank you," in his ear, as the two of them danced in the romance of the moment alone in the gym. Clark, if you didn't come to the gym to help decorate, then what was it that made it possible for me to see you again? Janet, dance classes, she said simply. Clark, well, I'm glad I got this opportunity. I've made up my mind and I won't take no for an answer. If you have other plans, then cancel them, because I want to take you to my reunion as my guest. There wasn't much more she could say. She was left speechless once again. Janet, okay. They kept dancing in the silence of each other's company till a few minutes later, when others started to arrive to help finish with the last of the things that needed to be done before the big high school reunion finally takes place. To be continued. Tune in for more adventures next time, written by none other than myself, Superwoman, aka Jennifer Cooley, the writer. Thanks for listening. And these copies, people can read this for free if they want. They can message me, ask for copies. I was not trying to give away the whole story, but Tom really sort of forced my hand. I didn't have a choice. The people around him I sent this to try to get to him. They're trying to get his attention, to get him to take the time to read this. Isn't working, so I give up. So now I just want to get this out there on YouTube and hope it gets hits and gets people's support. That everybody gets excited and they want to know how it ends. It's a really, really good story. I think with Clark, Tom's support as Clark, I think this could be a better movie than the whole series. I think the show could go out with a bang, and I think there's other TV series that could be birthed into existence off this movie if I'm given the chance to finish writing it. But I need to go certain places to finish it, and I need certain cooperation and input, because I don't know everything. I haven't been everywhere. I didn't watch all the episodes. Actually, I stopped watching a lot around season 8 because they were producing episodes with the show, making him do stuff I didn't agree with. I didn't like it. It was too much because this is about a family television, something everybody, all ages can watch. And the more they took him for granted, and the more they made him take his clothes off, and the more they did all those intimate, stupid, not so romantic scenes to sexualize the show, to increase ratings, to get people excited, was when I started thinking, he'd get paid more per scene if he was in porn. So that sort of got me going. It got the fire lit under my butt. And it literally made me take a step back. I was in British Columbia, 24 hours north of Vancouver, in a town, Kitimat. And I saw these buildings and structures that all had Superman colors and style. And I remembered at that time that I had said when I was a little kid, after watching the first Supergirl movie with Faye Dunaway, that I would grow up to write the second part. And it really is Tom sacrificing himself and his comfort levels, not knowing when to draw the line, when to say no, when to walk off set, not knowing what he was willing to do or what he wanted to do versus what he actually did. That's what inspired me to say, okay, I have to get to work now. I need to start doing something that's going to maybe save him from all this. And so I remembered I had to write that movie, so I started writing that. And then I started writing episodes that I saved on my Facebook. And I sort of just sit there over time. And it took me 8 years to write the Supergirl trilogy. It's over 100,000 words. It still needs to be cleaned up, but the story itself is on paper. It's all finished. So I expect when I'm done, it'll be about 120,000 words. It's 3 solid movies, really good. And then for the first time in 8 years, because that's not the only thing I write. I write songs, poetry, short stories, so I've always got something on paper. I found myself sitting there in front of empty computer screen. There was nothing on the paper. A few days after finishing the trilogy, I'm at the library on my computer, sitting there looking at the screen, and all of a sudden, all the Smallville stuff that I never got produced as episodes on the show, which had been the original hope and intention, came pouring out of me. And I wrote these first 39 pages nonstop, like right within the first couple of days. And now I'm tired because that was 3 years ago. So this movie's been ready to be made in production for 3 years. And summer 2020 will make it 4 years. And I have tried everything I can to get Tom to read it, to see it, to look in his inbox on Instagram, Facebook, to have his friends tap him on the shoulder going, I got this in my email. I got this in my message box. I got this on Messenger. Even Jesse. Everything I've possibly can. His family, his mom, his sister. So it's just not in the cards for me to get off being able to get this done easily. So I've had to come up with a bigger plan. So it's about sharing myself, my story, my side, and my situation of this with all of you, and hoping through your support that it will finally reach him, raise awareness. I mean, I went and met him in person so I could trigger his memory of who I am to him online. He's been reading my posts online for years. He knows who I am online. He knows my name online. But he couldn't seem to register. He didn't click the day that I saw him. And I had taken him just the cover of this and tried to get him to, stick around. You need to read this kind of thing. But the man of great words, in 60 seconds that I had to get him to trigger all the posts he's read and liked through the years and figure out who I am, managed to come out with one word in that 60 seconds. And his grand word was gotcha. And I'm laughing because if he got yad me, he'd have stayed and he would have read this and I wouldn't have to record the whole thing and share it with everybody all over the place in many different ways in order to get it to him, because we're out of time. And his age, my age, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to play the character in this. I might be too busy writing and producing. I might not feel like I look good enough. I do have some things I'd like to do as an actress, not just be a writer. I'd like to be in stuff. But the Superwoman in this story for the Smallville movie is not me. I'm not Tom Welling's Clark Kent's twin sister. Can't do it. Won't do it. I am the Clark Kent Superman twin sister to Henry Cavill's Superman in the movies. You have me and Henry stand next to each other. We look spot on. It's a perfect match. So that's where it would differ. If I was to be in Smallville, I'd have to play Janet, the new girl, the first aid instructor, rather than whereas in the Superman movie series with Henry Cavill, I could play his twin sister, not Janet. So that's the thing about TV and movies, is you can change things around a bit. And that's the broad scope of acting, is that you can play around with different characters. You don't have to be the same person in both the TV and movies, right? Or even on in stage, on theater. That's another plan I had, was to take another one of my projects that will get made into a movie, but to go back in time to the original story that was inspired into a movie that came from theater, and then take that story to the stage and maybe get Meg Ryan to stay the character, and so she could be it on stage and in the movie, because that's her lead character for the movie. So anyways, I'm babbling. I forgot to finish saying about the Black and Decker, the glass jar thing, but it shattered to pieces all over the place just from spinning food in it, like the fruit, and it said you could crush ice cubes. So I'm so upset about that I just halted The box is sitting around somewhere, and so I had to go and get myself a plastic smaller smoothie maker. And then, of course, I managed to break the plastic. So it's like a no-win situation. How do you break plastic? How do I manage to do this? But I realize it's the confined space of this little bachelor room that I'm in, because I'm a bigger person. I'm bigger in spirit and everything I do. I have no room. I can't breathe. I can't spread. There's no running room. So even walking between the wall unit and my futon, just I can't not run into a disaster. So I need money. I need to get production going. I need to get funding to finish writing this. I don't want to finish this alone. It won't mean nearly as much as having John Schneider and Tom involved, and maybe Al Gould. And Al Gould does know about it, and I haven't gotten him to read it either, because he's also agreeing that Tom's the lead actor of the show and he should be anteing up. But yeah, Tom doesn't have the people around him that he thinks he does. The trust isn't there. The respect and the love isn't there, or people would have told him sooner. So anyway, guys, the more people I can get this stuff around to, the more I can get the buzz going that there is a movie on the table, and it has been for 3 years, and that we are out of time. It does need to get made, or it's not going to get made with the original cast in mind, because everybody's going to be too old. They're going to look too old to go back in time for the brief period that the story is based on. Including me, I will look too old. So, yeah, so we're against time there. So it is of the essence that this becomes the trend. The idea of all the Comic-Cons that he's been to the last 3 years that he's been consistently going, the idea from the very first year was that he was supposed to announce to all the fans that there is this movie. And that he's saying, yes, I'll do it, that he's interested, that he's willing to play Clark Rapace's role one more time because he's read it, because he's met me, because he trusts the writer. That I'm not going to abuse him or use him or do things to give him the heebie-jeebies, as he quoted, that he didn't like about his experiences on the show towards the end. I won't do that. But he has my trust, my honor, that I will not do that. If you don't feel good, if you don't like it, if you're not having fun, I won't do it. Just tell me. Just make sure I know. He should have said something then. If I had been around then in the picture at that time, I would have put my foot down for him. And I would have taught him how to take the lead and tell them I'm the star of the show and I don't like this, I don't want to do this. The answer is no. And then they couldn't do anything about it. They'd just have to work with him and he'd just walk away. So I'm sorry I didn't get to do that, but we can still rescue things now and make this the best comeback movie ever in all of TV history, and maybe it'll win a bunch of awards. Fantastic idea. Love that thought so much. So yeah, Tom, if you see this, understand I've tried every other person around you possible. I've mailed this out many times, and I have no money. You guys have money. And I need that money break. It's my turn. It's my time. So I don't know if what you've done with your time was worth the sacrifice of this movie and its time. But I'm hoping that you'll come to the decision that it's time to make up for that time, and that we're gonna go do this. We're gonna have a good time, have fun. So yeah, get your copy, get in touch with me, and let's make the Smallville movie one to remember, a time to remember. And it's so good that you don't have to come back again and again in any more reunions, because it ends perfectly. So, Al, if you're out there, you can be the first to read it now. I don't care if it doesn't have to be Tom first. Let's just get this going. I want to finish writing this, and I need permission, and I need money. I need to be given money. I need to be paid so I can live comfortably enough to accomplish finishing the writing. I can't do it living in this little bachelor room like this. I don't even have the ability to have a proper desk and chair. The lighting is bad. It's just not good. So, Al, I know you're trying to support me, and you know that it's the only script on the table, and you won't walk over me. You won't walk on top of me. You won't try to ignore it and write another one. But you're waiting for Tom to read it like me. Well, it's not working. So we need to come up with another answer if we don't reach Tom from the fans, and we need to do it together. That's it. Peace out. Superwoman signing off. Thanks for watching. Keep tuning in. Bye for now.